each of their individual conversations that I had with them this week. They all are amazing people, much better than me. When I started to prioritize my relationship with Alyssa more than my game relationships, and especially over the leftovers, the person that she was in a relationship had been lying to her about an alliance in the game for the majority of the game, which no one should have to go through.
I don't even know if they know about the Brential showmance because it was so long. But
everyone knows about the Brential showmance. You guys are like the blueprint for all showmances ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely rooting for...
Welcome to the Secret Alliance podcast, where we talk about the game of Big Brother with the people who play it, like this guy from season 3, final 3. We've got Rachel Riley Vegas from seasons 12 and 13, the winner of BB13, and Hannah Chada from the fame of season 23 and the history-making cookout. Welcome!
That was a great introduction.
That was a great introduction.
It was really, really big. And we've got a lot of ground to cover here. We're going to talk about gameplay. We have an exit interview with Kyle and some really hard-hitting questions, plus just some really important discussions that were had in the Big Brother house. It's just continuing a conversation that we had here on the podcast last week. And, let me throw it to both you, Rachel, and to Hannah. As you watched Wednesday and Thursday night's episodes before Kyle's eviction, just what are some thoughts? What are some things that stood out to you both?
Wednesday's episode was the veto episode, and that's when Michael and Brittany kind of enacted their plan to get Kyle on the block. And I shared some of my sentiments in last week's episode of this podcast, where I was slightly uncomfortable about the timing of Michael and Brittany coming forth. Although I'm glad that they did, because hopefully that serves as a catalyst for Kyle to want to make changes in his own life and to reflect a bit more and become more socially aware and not as complacent in how sheltered his upbringing was. So that's my hope for all of this. And I'm also, happy that it saved my girl Taylor. Otherwise, she could have very well been backdoored and maybe she would have gone home. As you guys know, I'm pro Taylor. I'm team Taylor all the way. So whatever benefits her, hey, I guess I'm cool with it. But in Thursday's episode, I did feel like a lot of the editing centered around how hurt Kyle was, even though he was the one that hurt Taylor, Monty, and Terrence. So I just wish in the episode, the feelings of Taylor, Monty, and Terrence would have been centered in the narrative more, because I almost felt like the edit was like in an effort to protect Kyle. It was more so to garner sympathy for him and less about like, how can we learn from listening to the experiences of our Black House guests? So that's where I do feel the episode fell short. But I was also surprised that they included any of that, because sometimes you just don't know how far the network will go to protect its contestants. So I just wasn't sure what was going to be shown, and I was happy that at least some of it was.
I agree with Hannah, obviously 100%. And I love that the network did show it, because it's such an important topic that continues to be something in our country that we need to work on. And so I think that it is important that we all learn from this. And I'm just keep hoping that like the next season will take note, and that maybe, and I'm sure Hannah, you because you were part of the cookout. So maybe just the fact that you have had the chance to make this like beautiful thing happen, that other people will see that and that they'll continue to like learn from it. And I guess grow from it. I don't know. Like it's hard because I obviously will never understand what it's like. I was always, my alliances were obviously always predominantly, white alliances. And that's something I look back and I'm like, I didn't even think about it at the time. But, I think that Big Brother now they've taken steps, and I appreciate that they're taking steps to make sure that it's 50% people of color. And I think that that's that's going to help for future seasons, I'm sure.
Just by implementing that policy in October of 2020, that kind of allowed the cookout to do what it did. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the numbers. In previous seasons, they've only stuck 2 to 3 token people of color in there. And that's why, historically speaking, people of color haven't done well in this game, especially Black people. I mean, it took almost as long as I've been alive exactly as long as I've been alive for a winner who looks like me to be crowned. And that was on our season because of that policy, like as an indirect effect of that. I would also like to see diversity behind the camera, because even if your talent is diverse and comes from different walks of life, that may not be accurately portrayed to viewers if the people who work behind the camera don't know how to tell their stories, if that makes sense. So I think that's the next step that we need. And then let's see, you were talking, just with the cookout again, like I think the misunderstanding is that some people overlook it as an alliance that just tried to get rid of the white people. And that is time and time and again, not what we strove to do. Our mission was one of unity. It was one of love and empowerment. And we never isolated, bullied, or ostracized the people outside of our alliance. So I just wish that instead of people being fearful of the cookout, like, oh my gosh, what if this happens again? I wish that people would just embrace it, because we're in a new era of Big Brother. We're in a new era of the world. And I think it's time that everyone, I guess, starts becoming more progressive, or at least okay with the progression that the world is moving in. And I'm curious to see how Kyle plans on bettering himself. I do appreciate the fact that he wasn't super defensive from what I saw in the edit. Now, the feeds were cut a lot last week, so I don't know what all of his conversations were like. But he did seem vulnerable. He did seem self-aware enough to know that he has deep-rooted issues from his upbringing and his background, and he should probably address those issues. But at the same time, I did feel like a lot of that responsibility was being placed on Monty, Taylor, and Terrence to educate him. He was like, oh, well, why haven't you guys educated me? Or like, my work is basically going to be coming up to you guys and letting you guys impart your experiences with me and all of your knowledge with me. And I guess in some respects, I like the fact that he like wants to hear first person accounts of their experiences as Black people in this country. But I just don't want him to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to do any active work of my own. I'm just going to let these people do the work for me, and I'm going to listen, if that makes sense. So I'm just curious to see how he plans on bettering himself.
I love that. Yeah, that will be, I think that we'll all be curious to see that. And also, I was going to make a point to your point about hiring people behind the camera. I know that there's a lot of initiatives, because, you know, I work in casting, where they're trying to hire more BIPOC and also women. So, and then, of course, including more LGBTQ plus people in the community working into from casting, because it's where it really starts in casting. And like, you know, as directors, producers, story producers. So I know there are those initiatives going on, and I know it's not like, you know, as ideal as we would hope that it would be, but I think you will continue to see that those, that's happening. You know, I think that we'll continue to see in the entertainment industry shaping to where everyone's story is being told, and that where they have representation, that is, I guess I don't know how to say it, but where there's more representation.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
And yeah, I think that's the hope, is that we see growth and more representation. And I think that this is beginning, but we have certainly, and I mean, Hannah, you could speak to this. I certainly think we have a long way to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is just the beginning, I think.
All right. This puts us right here to the Kyle interview. We got to ask him some questions, and just so that everybody understands, we submit these after the episode airs on Thursday night, and they have somebody from the PR team ask these questions, and they can change them up, and sometimes they do. But the first thing that we wanted to talk to him about, and Julie had discussed this some, we saw it was the big topic of that Thursday episode, and this is the cookout on season 23. Hannah, you were a part of, and you asked this question. You said people of color have historically been mistreated in this game in the real world. The purpose of the cookout was to help rectify the mistreatment and empower future players of color. To understand the cookout's mission is to understand that by doing what they did, they took away the obligation of future players of color to feel like they have to play for their community so that they can focus on doing what is best for their individual games. With that being said, why did you use the cookout as justification to lump the season's players of color together to suggest that the white players needed to counter this by targeting them despite there being absolutely zero evidence of this happening? And here's what Kyle told us about that.
Yeah, so mid-game, I had these generalized thoughts and feelings that really had no grounds or foundations, which I deeply regret. Everyone in the house this past week has been so open and understanding and has shared their experiences, and I'm so grateful, and I love everyone in the house currently. And like I said in the show, a lot of people will see this as the end of the Big Brother journey for me, but I see it as the start of a larger journey that's much more important. So I look forward to after the show continuing to have these conversations and finding resources that can help better understand the situation.
I do like the fact that he wasn't defensive. Well, I think initially he was defensive because he was probably caught off guard. He just denied. But I guess by the time that the veto meeting happened, or by the time that the house meeting happened, and this wasn't shown on feeds, but they talked about it on feeds, I guess he stood up there and he was like, my assumptions about the game were rooted in racism. And that's really difficult for some people to admit, not only to the world, but to themselves because of the implications of that. I mean, I'm sure no one actively moves through this world thinking that they're racist or sexist or homophobic. They just are because of these unconscious biases that all of us have. So like I keep saying, I do think, it was a good thing on his part to be self-aware and vulnerable enough to admit that to not only us, but to himself. But instead of saying like, okay, I have these problems now, Monty, Terrence, and Taylor, you guys are going to do the work, or I guess be responsible for reliving your traumas so I can learn from those traumas. I wish he would have asked them questions, but then I don't know, it's just hard because he doesn't have access to any resources outside of the Big Brother house while he's still in there. So it's like, how much work can you do when you're still in this entrapped environment? But when he leaves, I guess, I just hope that he isn't like, okay, I'm going to have Monty, Terrence, and Taylor fix me by reliving their traumatic experiences with racism, with colorism, et cetera, et cetera. And he does a combination of asking them critical conversations and engaging in like crucial discussions, and sincere discussions at that, but then also like goes out and does research on his own. We all have access to Google. We all have phones, and most of us have computers. I'm pretty sure he does. So I just hope that he finds a good balance between taking the initiative to do his own research, but then also hearing from the mouths of people who have experienced forms of bigotry firsthand. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I really don't know what Big Brother may offer in the jury house, but I do hope there's some resources available even now as he begins what he called a journey and a major journey. I also, I think that we really saw how sheltered and almost naive that he is in life through seeing some of this. I heard that he mentioned he had never even been to a bar. I don't know, I've got his age written down over here somewhere.
29,
yeah, he's young, but not so young that he would never had done that. And so I do know that there's some growth, and we're looking forward to seeing that growth happen. And and that it is something that he does on his own, that he really takes the time and that he puts in the effort. And, it's like, if you want to learn a trade or a skill, you go and figure that out. If you want to, do something to better yourself, whether it's education or something else in life, if you want to learn how to cook or something like that, you go after that. And I hope for Kyle, that's what my hope is, that he does that to better himself and to to have a broader worldview, and to see where he missed some things, where he had blinders on. And and I know we're all trying to grow, and I feel like that's one of the things that's been great and enlightening with this podcast is just, Hannah, to see a different perspective than the world that I'm in and that I see this show or this game through. And and I really appreciate that. And I know we've heard so many comments, and we thank everybody on YouTube for saying that, because you have been such a breath of fresh air and a great ray of light, to just help people understand some of the things that maybe we have missed as a different upbringing or background or race or sexual orientation or all of these things. And so thank you, Hannah, for being a part of this in the conversation and for helping us all to grow. And I think if and maybe I'm wrong here, but if we will be open to changing and growing and bettering ourselves, then I mean, this world will be a better place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think that's the whole purpose of life, to keep making mistakes and then learning from those mistakes. I hope that Kyle's actually committed to this, and once he leaves the Big Brother house, he doesn't get complacent in his naivety yet again. So
I also thought
that's my goal.
I think so too. I want him to continue pushing forward, and I think fans of Big Brother are going to make sure that happens. I think they're going to stay on him, and I do appreciate the fan base of the show. I also thought it was really interesting that Alyssa made a statement that I hope rings true with relationships for people, is to have a standard in the relationship and say, you know what, Kyle, you didn't ever put me as even a top alliance. You never put me as somebody who was important. And I know that we're in this game bubble and people will, take it that this is not the real world relationship, but she deserves somebody who's saying, I'm going to focus in on you and give you that all. And I appreciated Alyssa as a woman having a standard and saying, you didn't meet that standard and we're done. I thought that was another impressive moment. That was just like, there was a lot in that Thursday night episode.
Oh my gosh, it was jam-packed.
Yeah.
And you know what? Standards are so important. And that brings us to Alyssa, the showmance. A great question, Hannah, that you had about Kyle being insulated. He had the leftovers after the party, the pound, the showmance, all of these things. Did he self-sabotage in the game of Big Brother? And you wanted to know what went wrong, Kyle.
So I did feel like I was in a pretty decent spot multiple times throughout the game, but so much changes, week by week. I think as the game went on, my feelings for Alyssa continued to grow, and I started to prioritize my relationship with Alyssa more than my game relationships, and especially over the leftovers. And that could have been a pretty big detriment to my game.
I think he lost sight of the game. Like, I think he got in his head, and like, as we do in that game, where it's like, you focus on everything that's going on at this second and you forget that there's $750,000 on the line. And I think he got caught up in, I don't know. I think it all just blew up during Dire Fest with him. And maybe it was because he was trying to save himself, but like, it felt like because he was in that insulated spot, but it felt like he just like self-imploded his own game during Dire Fest, right? Like that was just, it felt like he just didn't focus on, like almost everything he did was wrong that week. And it was just like, I don't know like what was going through his brain, but maybe it was like trying to save his game or what. But I think he was insulated. And I just think he made every mistake you can make by burning every single bridge with people. And I'm not even talking about all the, the mistakes he made with thinking that there's another cookout. I'm just talking about with just the other things that he did with like, going after, Joseph, and then gaslighting, even when they came back in the house, gaslighting Taylor, like that it doesn't make any sense. Like, I just think he made a bunch of mistakes. And then with Alyssa, I think she was a scorned woman, if that makes any sense, because I feel like she felt like at that point she was second. And so I think and I'm glad she has standards too. I thought that was great, but I think she felt like at that point, I think she was just like, forget it. The showmance, he doesn't care about me as a real romance. So why should I help him with his game? Like, I think she was ready to blow it up because she realized at that point, he didn't care about her in the game. He was ready to let her go. And I think that someone on, maybe it was like Showbiz Cheat Sheet or something, had mentioned Brendan and I. So Brendan won a veto and saved me. And like, Brendan was always like, don't come after Rachel. Like, I'll come after you. But like, Kyle was never willing to do that for Alyssa, really. So it was like, I think she realized that, and she's probably thinking, all these showmances. I don't even know if they know about the Brenchel showmance because it was so long. But
everyone knows about the Brenchel showmance. You guys are like the blueprint for all showmances ever.
Right?
Yeah.
But like,
you guys are like the showmans.
Oh, thank you. But I just keep thinking, like, if she was thinking about the other showmances, she might have just been thinking, like, we're not going to get married. We're not going to have this outside the house. Why should I waste my game on him? And I think what really did it too was when they came back in from when the two houses came back together. So this past week, I just think he did everything wrong for like 3 weeks in a row.
I would completely agree with that. I definitely think that his commitments to Alyssa, who is outside of the leftovers, did. I don't want to say. I don't want to say that's what imploded his game, but you could definitely tell how conflicted he was as a player because in the week that he won the veto with Daniel, so this was week 4, like literally 5 weeks ago. He was like, oh, do I use the veto and take Alyssa off the block, or do I let her go home because the leftovers want her gone? So you could just tell how how he was becoming more and more invested in his showmance with Alyssa, and how he was wrestling between like who he wanted to actually ride with. And I do think that did jeopardize his positioning within the leftovers because then people started looking at him sideways. But I literally tweeted this in week 5. I was like, his showmance with Alyssa is going to ruin his game, and his paranoia about a barbecue, feast, picnic, cook out the reprise, whatever you want to call it, happening is also going to be the death of his game. And this was like after the first conversation that he had with Kyle about it, because I was like, where is this coming from? There's absolutely no basis. Again, I don't think it's right to say 6 Black people did something last year, therefore the Black people in the house this year must be doing the same thing, because you would never say that about white players. And that's like a larger societal problem where the actions of one Black person just reflect on the entire community. But you as Rachel could do something and that wouldn't project onto Jason. But I digress. Week
it's
5,
an important
I was like,
point to make, though, Hannah.
Yeah,
that's very important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Whereas, like, if I do something, people are going to be like, oh my gosh, Big D, Xavier, Kyland, Tiffany, and Oz. Granted, we were in alliance, but also, like, we're no longer in alliance. We're just people. We're former players. So, yes, that's part of it. But I was like, since there's no valid game basis, I just don't see the house getting behind this. And I think this is what's going to ruin him. And sure enough, it did. And also in Direfest, there was no reason to blow up the leftovers at that moment. Not before nominations, not before veto, because he could have won veto. And then he could have made sure him and Alyssa were off the block. They would have had the votes. He wouldn't have had to expose the leftovers. He could have still told Alyssa to like really, actually, no, he shouldn't have told Alyssa. Because he would have still had her as a number. At that point, I think she was like completely devoted to him. So he would have had the leftovers. He wouldn't have blown them up. He could have still probably sent Joseph home because him and Alyssa would have been the 2 votes. He could have retained Alyssa as an extra number. So there was just no reason for him to do what he did. I agree with you, Rachel. He just he completely spiraled. But also what I love about Big Brother, and I was just talking to Kai about this yesterday morning when we were stranded on the side of the highway.
That's Kylan, who is still in an alliance with you. He helped save the day yesterday.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We ran the amazing race together yesterday. I protected the donuts and he ran to a gas station in the mountains. But no, Kylan and we got stuck on the freeway yesterday because my car ran out of gas. So it was a whole excursion. But my point is that we were just talking about like what we love about reality TV shows and Big Brother. And I was saying, I think we learn the most about ourselves in situations of adversity and stress. And Big Brother is the perfect pressure cooker. I'm not sure if any of us have ever been in a situation that's just that high stress 24/7. And I do think it does a really good job of unraveling people and kind of exposing who they are at their core. So now we're seeing like Kyle's, unconscious biases emerging. And I almost feel like that's a blessing for him because now he can be honest with himself. And, hopefully that may cause some viewers who have had similar backgrounds to him to start asking themselves questions about their own unconscious biases and addressing them. So I just keep saying that that's my hope for all of this. And in terms of like exposing who people are at their core, I mean, I'm not like in my day-to-day life, I'm not going to turn on my sister. I'm not going to turn on my friend to get myself further. That's not really what I'm talking about. I just mean like our opinions on social dynamics and our characters and the way that we love and the way that we may be insecure. That's more so what I mean.
We asked Kyle in this interview about making amends, and do you feel you've got to make those right now with house guests like Joseph, who he's not in the house and you're soon going to see him in the jury house, but Joseph, maybe others, Taylor, Monty, and we wanted to know what he had to say about making amends.
So I had multiple conversations with the existing house guests, and again, they were so open, honest, and supportive of me in this journey. I can't say enough how amazing that process has been and how amazing they are as people. I look forward to having more of those conversations outside of the game.
Well, Kemi, in my opinion, said it best on the finale of BB21 when after Julie asked Jack and Christy and Nick and Jackson, I think, about some of their problematic comments, they started profusely apologizing. And Kemi was like, well, this is the first time you're hearing about all of this. So I just hope you know what you're apologizing for. Otherwise, that's not a genuine apology. So I keep saying that I just hope that Kyle is being sincere here. I hope he truly understands where he went wrong and what he could have done differently. And he puts in the active work by educating himself and listening and being empathetic to make strides moving forward.
And we hope that happens. And when the weeks and months roll on, that's what we're going to be looking for, is that he really understands the gravity of this, and that the apologies that were said now weren't just this knee-jerk reaction to try and get out of it, like a kid being caught taking a cookie out of the cookie jar and like, I'm sorry, Mom, I'm sorry. But that this is real change, and that he is becoming a better version of himself. So we'll see as those amends are made down the line. And, we get Kyle on the day after the eviction. So he's had a night to sleep on it. He may have had a little bit of interaction with family. They might let him make a phone call. I don't know exactly how it goes for jury being sequestered, because that didn't happen on season 3 of my season. I mean, I got out of the house and we went to dinner that night with my family before.
That's so wild.
Voting on the winner, but we weren't sequestered. It's just like the first people to get out, but I was the last one to go, final 3 there. So we did say, now that you've had a little moment to be out of the house and the pressure of the cameras and the microphones on you, What are your thoughts? Would you like to say something right now if you had the opportunity to the remaining house guests, those people who are still in the house?
Just that I love them and I appreciate them so much. I can't begin to express the gratitude that I feel for each house guest, and each of their individual conversations that I had with them this week. They all are amazing people, much better than me. And I am just so grateful to have had this opportunity and this experience with them. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to share this experience with. And I'm just so grateful and happy to have met all these individuals.
He keeps saying that he's so thankful for this and that he loves them. And it seems very open to change and growth. And again, time is going to be the real thing that tells whether this was just a momentary thing to get out of a situation that he was in, or if this is the real growth that's happening for Kyle. And I hope it is real and lasting.
Yeah. Well said.
Agree. And do we think Kyle is leaning toward a Taylor winner? Because I don't think we really know who he's, at this point, I don't feel like I know who he's going to vote for. Do you?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. We did sort of ask. And spoiler here, no surprises. Who are you rooting for, Kyle? Listen to this.
Oh, I'm definitely rooting for Alyssa. She has probably had the hardest emotional experience, basically learning that the person that she was in a relationship had been lying to her about an alliance in the game for the majority of the game, which no one should have to go through. And I feel very bad about. And so I hope she just absolutely crushes the rest of the game. As far as, people that I wish to see in the jury house, I think everyone's playing such a great game right now. Like, everyone is maybe one big move or one HOH win away from being the front runner. So I'm just excited to see how the rest of the game plays out.
He's going to be rooting for her all the way to the jury house, but I wonder if Kyle, I wonder how he is going to vote, because we know now we have Indy and Jasmine and Joseph and Kyle is going to be in there with them for a week. And we know they are very big Taylor fans, right? So they're thinking like they're really pushing for a Taylor win. So I'm wondering if that's going to sway, if he's going to be also going for more of like a Taylor win, I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I think he votes for Alyssa if Alyssa's sitting next to anyone, but let's just say Alyssa is not in final two.
Yeah.
I could see him voting for Terrence, Monty, or Taylor, just because I do think that part of him kind of blames his exit from the Big Brother house on Michael and Brittany, because they were the ones who sat on that information for weeks and brought it forward to the HOH when it was finally convenient for him, for them. So he may hold that against them, and for that reason, not vote for either of them to win the game. I'm not sure how he feels about Turner. I personally think that Turner hasn't done anything active enough to garner a win. At this point, I'm not sure what he would even argue sitting next to anyone, because I think everyone else has had a more tumultuous journey to get to this point than he has. Turner's just kind of been chilling, and both of his HOHs were wholeheartedly controlled by other people. Mm-hmm. So even if Kyle does want Turner to win, I just don't really see that vote even mattering. So yeah, it really comes down to Monty, Terrence, and Taylor. And I think he is probably grateful for the fact that they didn't crucify him in the house and instead extended compassion and love to him and support when they absolutely did not have to, because most of us would not have. So yeah, I do see him, like, if Taylor ends up in final two next to anyone but Alyssa, I could see Kyle being like, okay, I'm Team Taylor.
Do you think what if it, like you said, Taylor, Terrence? Because you do make a good point about Terrence. Terrence was, in Dire Fest with him, and Terrence has been playing. I think Terrence has good arguments. I don't know about against Taylor, but like
Mm-hmm.
I think Terrence could have good arguments. Like if Terrence and Monty were up there together, or Terrence and Turner, I could see Terrence beating either one of them. And I'm surprised to say that because I don't think we've ever had a player like Terrence who was at the final two where we're like, I definitely could see him like arguing a point, or him or her, or arguing why they are, why they deserve to be there. But I think Taylor, I mean, I just can't imagine, like, that girl has been through so freaking much.
Yeah.
And like every week they try to get rid of her, and she's like, her social game is just like on point, it's just like strategic, social, like everything. It's just, she's just been, I mean, I feel like she's the legit Cinderella of this season, right? Like she's just coming out on top. I don't know. Like,
well, let's talk about
9 lives.
Yeah, 9 lives.
But where Taylor or a Michael could be in jeopardy is this double eviction that Julie is promising for Thursday night. A player like Michael certainly should be very, very nervous because he can't win the HOH. When Julie drops this news to the house guests, I think Michael's going to be very afraid. And I just don't know. He's putting a lot of trust in Brittany, but he's also in an alliance with Taylor. And if let's say Taylor wins this thing, is Michael safe, or does Taylor make a big game move here and go after Michael, who is a competition beast, right? He's just now, spoiler alert here, broken a Janelle record here in Big Brother history. This is amazing.
Yeah. Okay, so what some viewers may be forgetting is the house does not know that there's a double eviction coming up on Thursday. Correct. Right? Yeah. So they're hearing the house guest plan for next week going, oh my God, like Taylor's the target going into the double, not Michael. How could they not want to target Michael when it's a double eviction? They don't know it's a double eviction. So I think as soon as they hear that, they're going to be like, I'm sorry, it's a double eviction. We're only going to have to deal with Michael for like 20 minutes before he gets evicted if he doesn't win veto. And he can't play for the HOH. This is like anyone would be dumb as soon as they hear it's a double eviction to not like immediately, I guess, switch their thought process from potentially targeting someone else to now targeting him, because he's 50% more vulnerable than everyone else is, since they have 2 opportunities to secure their safety and he only has 1. So I think the only person who would not put Michael on the block under any circumstances is Brittany. And I get that because they're so close, but I'm also like, Brittany, you must know that you're not going to win. Like everyone must know that they're not going to win sitting next to Michael in a final 2, maybe with the exception of Taylor. So it would just be smart for all of them to target Michael. And if they get rid of anyone else when they have the opportunity to send Michael home, I'm probably going to tune out, because that's just going to be so infuriating as a fan of the show. Like, you had the opportunity to take him out and you didn't. What? Yeah, we'll see.
I think they have to nominate him unless it's Brittany. But you know what? I don't think Brittany's playing to win anymore. I think even when she said in her DR, she was like, and nobody understands that we're like a pair, that we come together. Like, nobody understands the relationship we have, or whatever she said. I really just think she's playing his game at this point. Like, he has her so on lock. Like, she's willing to go to final 2 with him, knowing that she's going to lose. I don't even think she would get rid of him if she won the final HOH and she had to pick. I think she would still pick him, which Brittany's playing for second place anyways. If she's there, because I don't know who she could beat. I don't think she could beat anyone, because nobody, I mean, she's playing for second place. Unless it was Brittany and Alyssa, which then, I mean, my God.
No, I think Alyssa would still win.
Right.
I think Brittany probably has some of like the worst jury management, because people are not like, Indy doesn't like Brittany. Jasmine doesn't like Brittany. I think Joseph's indifferent towards her. Kyle's kind of pissed at Brittany right now. Terrence isn't the biggest fan of Brittany. Like, no one's in Brittany's corner. Michael would have to get evicted like basically next week and like go on a crusade to paint Brittany in a positive light. And then on top of that, she would have to sit next to Alyssa in order to. So I just don't see her winning.
No, she's not. But I do think she's willing to, like, just whatever Michael needs her to do. She's just going to do whatever he needs. So, yeah, I don't know. If they didn't get rid of Michael though in this, I mean, Taylor, I would love to see it. I think we all would love to see it because then she has this other giant game move, right? I mean, can't get a bigger game move. Like, so then it secures her, but then the problem is now do they all go after Taylor for their, I mean, they've been going after her anyways. And is she going to, are they going to continue to go after her even if she didn't do that? You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
we can play the devil's advocate on everything, but if she does do that, I think that's like, you know, it just is like a no-brainer. Taylor wins the season, but unless they get her out, which I hope that they don't continue to target her toward the end. It just will be, I don't know. That's going to be tough. Like, I don't want to see her have to win every competition, you know, 'cause it's hard. It's like, and Michael's in that situation now. He has to win everything or someone's going to get him out.
Yeah.
Let's just say though that, you know, what if he does on double eviction night? They tell the house guests that this is happening. Whoever wins HOH it ends up seeing Michael on the Senate, putting him on the block or something. He's in veto and wins it, pulls himself down. Then, and let's say he's safe. Who goes? Is it Brittany? Do they put that alliance up? Michael and Brittany? Do you nominate Michael and Brittany? Okay, so Brittany probably goes. Maybe it's Alyssa.
I don't think it's Brittany. No, I think so. First of all, I think Alyssa goes first this week. I don't think they're going to get rid of Terrence.
They're voting out Terrence.
Why?
Because Terrence is one more.
So that is what? Like, but that just blows my mind because I don't see from playing the game how you could justify when Alyssa has done nothing and she is just like, I mean, I guess maybe because you said because he's one more, but like, I mean, that's really disappointing. I think I can't believe it.
I think they also recognize that Terrence is a rat, and when that strategy is executed well, it's my favorite strategy to watch because it's the Andy Herron strategy, and I'm not even trying to call Andy Herron a rat, but like when you're able to play all sides consistently, that's so impressive to me.
Yeah.
But Terrence has gotten caught, and I don't think anyone trusts him. And consistently, he has been like all summer, he's basically been pushing to send Taylor out of the house. So why would Taylor and Brittany want to keep Terrence? And then when everyone knows that he's a loose cannon and they can't control him and he's capable of winning things, I mean, wouldn't you want to keep Alyssa the layup? I
mean, for sure. But I think Alyssa is going to go after Taylor, like, period. I think she's jealous of her. And I think she's going to go after her the second. If Alyssa wins that double eviction, Taylor's going on the block. I don't see Alyssa trying to work with Taylor. Unless I'm just completely, I mean, I haven't been watching the feeds as much. So maybe I'm just like in a totally different, like headspace, but I would almost think for Taylor's game, it would be better to keep Terrence because I know Terrence. Yes. I know he says, I'm going to get Taylor, but I just don't know if he's like, well, I guess if Terrence won the double, he would probably put up Michael and Taylor too. So I guess it wouldn't matter at that point either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing here is we don't know until we see who becomes that for the double eviction HOH, and then it's the throw down the gauntlet, and anything could happen. But I will say, while we're talking about Terrence, this brings us to how we're going to wrap all this stuff up with Zingbot arriving in the BB house, and I didn't get to enjoy Zingbot. I know we talked about on season 3 the fact that we didn't sequester the jury. That began season 4 really because of the way that it played out, that Danielle Reyes, my secret alliance partner, would have been the winner had it not been that people went out of the house and started seeing the diary room sessions. And she was just honest and frankly really funny.
Yes.
And so they didn't vote for her. I was the one lone vote for Danielle Reyes. She played the best game of anybody in that house that season, and that includes my game. She was the better player. And so Anyway, that being said, that was 20 years ago. And on that season, I won this shirt. And I'm offended by the ageism jokes that were thrown at Terrence. He's only 2 years older than me. So if I ever step back in that house, I'm like this shirt here. I'm ancient history, dust.
20 years ago, Jason.
Come on, Zingbot.
I don't think Zingbot means any of the things he says.
No.
Don't stand up for Zingbot.
But his zings this season were, I don't know. I didn't like them as much as my previous zings. Okay, so my first zing, so in season 12, I wasn't in the house, but Brendan got zinged for me talking something about Zingbot had more, or I had more silicone in my body than Zingbot. Good.
Oh my gosh, Zingbot was so.
Zingbot was way ruder. The zings were really harsh way back in the day. And so was season 12 the beginning? That was the beginning, Rachel. Season 12 was Zingbot.
Yeah. And then the second one was something about I say the F word all the time, and then it was like fiance.
Oh
fiance.
Yeah.
It was like all I did was say that word. Yeah, I was like my fiance. But, but I thought his things were really creative back then.
They were harsh. My lord.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't take myself very seriously, so I thought that was super funny because I was like, well, it's probably true.
Yeah. On our season, the zings were pretty lame. He talked about Tiffany's age. I was like, okay, how cliche, just going for what's easy. Talked about Claire's height, Kylan talking in run-on sentences. I got the exact same zing as Monty did. The bore zing. Yeah. No, well, he called me irrelevant. And then he said, bore zing.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, at first I was mad, but then I was like, Zingbot actually has a point. So then I was I kind of agree.
No, I don't agree. I don't think so at all, Hannah. And we have seen throughout the Secret Alliance this season, as you've been part of it, nothing boring about you and great insight. What was your favorite zing here, everybody? Was it the one to Brittany and her eyes?
Her eyes. She does have crazy eyes. I
like Taylor's zing, the Ice Queen.
Yes, but that wasn't even a zing. That was more of I think she took it as more of a compliment. Yeah, I am cold. Yeah, I am a queen. Yeah, I'm icy. I liked Turner's zing. His was kind of mean. Yeah, I was like, yikes, but also kind of true.
Yeah.
Maybe Zingbot does mean the things that he says. I don't know.
It was big breaking news when he had showered twice in a week early on in the season. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. People were like, "Oh my gosh, hygiene." They called him hygienic Turner or something. I was like, "That's sad. That's bad for him."
Well, we love the return of Zingbot. It brings in some good stuff, and of course, we know that some exciting gameplay is on the way with a double eviction Thursday night. I can't wait. And I know we've had all the speculation, but we might be right or none of us. And we see somebody walk out of that house that we weren't even talking about today. What if someone goes, Monty is such a big threat and whoever holds the power is convinced. And then boom, we see somebody like that. I cannot wait. I get your popcorn out or your bag of Lay's potato chips.
Yeah. Kylan and I, we just bought some Lay's potato chips, so I can munch on them during the episode. But who are your guys's? Who's your prediction for who's going to win HOH and who's going to walk out the door?
First eviction of the night. Do we think Terrence is going home? Are we all in agreement? Okay. With the double eviction, I think Taylor is going to win this HOH because I felt like she was going to win it last week. So I feel like this is Taylor's HOH to win. And then I've been convinced as I've talked and heard it all out that for her to make a huge game move, like getting rid of Michael, I think would give her such a boost for her resume. She's got a huge resume as it is. and has survived the block as many times as she has. She's got an amazing social game. She's also won competitions, but I think this would be one of those things that's just, it seals the deal. And then maybe she can use that as some leverage for when she can't win HOH the following week to protect her in the game a little further on. So I'm going to go Taylor winning it. And then I think she might take a shot with Michael.
Okay.
So I think they're going to do questions first and then the physical competition for veto. That's what I predict. And I could be totally wrong, but I'm thinking in traditional double evictions where we have a clear target. It's the winning veto is usually physical. So I'm wondering if it's going to be a physical veto and then a questions for the HOH part. I think, my gosh, I hope Taylor wins, but I think if it's questions, it could either be a Terrence, a Taylor. Well, Michael can't play. Turner's not really good at questions, is he?
I don't know if he's been practicing his days.
Yeah. So I think it could be like Terrence or a Taylor. Taylor's definitely been practicing. If Alyssa wins, like that's just like something went wrong. But I'd love to see a Monty win. That would be great. But I probably think, Terrence won't be there. Crap. So, oh man. So then Taylor would be the favorite to win questions. Cause if it's a days kind of thing or something about the house guests, Taylor probably knows the most. And then I think she would take a shot at Michael. I think she would nominate Alyssa and Michael, not Brittany. I don't think she nominates Brittany. And then I think if Michael wins veto, maybe evict or maybe puts Brittany up. And I think the house guests vote out Alyssa, but I could be wrong. I'm wrong a lot. So.
That's the whole point of guessing, just to be like, oh, I was right. Oh, I wasn't. I think if Brittany wins HOH, because Brittany has been studying her days, then I see Turner leaving because she has a final 3 with Brittany and Taylor. She also has a final 3 with Monty and Taylor. And I think she does want to work with Alyssa. So I think Brittany will probably put up Monty and Turner. And then Taylor and Michael would vote out Taylor. Sorry. Turner. Taylor and Michael would vote out Turner over Monty. So long story short, if Brittany wins, I see Turner leaving. If Taylor wins, I see Michael leaving. So if anyone wins HOH besides Brittany and Michael does not win veto, I see Michael leaving. Yeah. If Brittany wins HOH, I see Turner leaving, regardless of who wins veto. And then if so it's either going to be Michael, Brittany, or Turner is what I'm thinking.
All right. Okay. We'll be watching. We can't wait to see. The double eviction just really gets things exciting in the traditional double eviction form versus Dire Fest and what went down with that.
Although I'm so excited. Yeah.
It got some things going in the game. All right. We'll see if any of our predictions were right. Watch,
Oh, Jason, you didn't even tell us who your favorite Zing bot was.
My favorite Zing was, of course, the Zing at Brittany. That was my, that was my favorite.
Yeah.
The eyes.
So intense.
All right. But I do need her to hypnotize me to not be as nervous on planes. And Rachel, you said you were going to get her to hypnotize you.
I want her to hypnotize me not to eat so many snacks because I tend to binge.
I'm not listening. I'm not listening to that. No.
Right.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Take care.
Check out past seasons of The Secret Alliance. We have interviews with so many Big Brother legends on this channel. Those videos are just waiting for you.